7 years ago, Susan McKenna Grant and her husband Michael bought an ancient abandoned farm in the Chianti Mountains of Tuscany and began restoring it as an all-organic, self-sufficient mixed farm, something all but extinct in the region. Living in Tuscany taught the Grants that faster is not better, that slowing down is the way to create an Eden, Italian style. Tuscany. The very name conjures up romantic landscapes, hazy summer days, laughter over delightful food and wine. Is it any wonder so many dream of living in this magical land? At La Petraia, the ancient farm and agriturismo owned by Susan McKenna Grant and her husband Michael, the day starts as early as it does on any farm. Except this isn't just any Tuscan farm. Here the Grants are returning the property to its origin as a self-sustaining farm.
Mostly today, what we have is monoculture or agribusiness. We've lost the culture part of that word, agriculture, and really what we're trying to do is bring that back. And a return to agricultural activity is not a romantic notion. It's actually a very modern thing to do. And that's really our goal, is to prove that you can generate wealth in a sustainable way and hopefully set an example for other people to follow.
Living here is a long way from Susan's former life in Toronto. That's where, in 1991, she met Michael Grant, a film producer and director.
She wasn't a farmer when I met her, you know.
No.
She was about as far from a farmer as you could be when I met her. I had no idea she was a farmer.
I think in a sense, you know, I was coming from the future and he was coming from the past when we met. You know, I was involved in a high-tech software business, and Michael was traveling all around the world filming Aboriginal people and tribal cultures. And now we've sort of gone the other way. He's living in Toronto and he's running a very cutting-edge financial business, and I'm here living on a farm.
The Grants' love affair with Italy began on their honeymoon, a 2-year ramble around Europe, with Michael indulging a favorite pastime.
Michael has this problem that he can't walk by a real estate office, sort of like I can't walk by a food store. That's what led us here to La Petraia. We used to just end up meeting these real estate agents and then they would take us around.
This was an intelligent real estate agent. He took us first to 5 or 6 ruins, and then he took us here. And it was perfectly habitable, so of course, we fell in love with the place that was habitable.
The scary part came after we bought it. And that's when we saw that we had purchased something that looked pretty similar to the Norman Bates house in Psycho.
The ink barely dry on the sale, the Grants began wondering if they'd bitten off more than they could chew. The idea of farming was lovely, but...
When I met Michael, we always talked about this idea of finding a property where we could be self-sufficient. But he always said to me, I'm not going to be the guy on the tractor. So I'm the guy on the tractor.
Isolated high in the Chianti Hills, La Petraia had been abandoned for decades. A sorry sight, the farm was the very definition of a fixer-upper. In business, Susan and Michael had both achieved goals before, but they hadn't been up against Italian bureaucracy or Italian temperament.
We'd talk to the local people about what we wanted to do, and they would always look at us and smile and say, piano, piano si fa. And that means, you know, slowly, slowly you can do all that. And we used to just think, like, don't they get it? Like, we want this done fast. Well, you know, it's like going on 7 years later, and, you know, slowly, slowly we're still getting things done. But one of the things, of course, that happened in that sort of forced slowness was that I had a chance to live on this property. And in a sense, the place has had a chance to speak to us. And we've had a chance to listen. And so we've approached the restoration in an entirely different way, I think, than we would have had we just been allowed to go forward quickly.
To help them with the restoration, the Grants turned to historian Alessio Merciai.
Un edificio del genere probabilmente se non l'avessero comprato I signori Grant o
If the Grants hadn't bought this building, it would have fallen to the ground. It would have been abandoned, just as the property was abandoned 30 years ago, when there were no longer any contadinos, any traditional farmers.
Nessun contadino.
La Petraia, the name means place of stone, has a history that stretches back to the ancient Etruscans, over 2,500 years ago.
We always were under the impression that we were living in a house that might be 300 or 400 years old. It turned out to be about 900 years old, so that was astonishing to us.
Alessandro Mini played a key role in the restoration, putting the Grants in touch with local craftspeople.
Questi ultimi 7-8 anni che I Grant hanno acquistato, c'è stato totalmente...
In the last 7 or 8 years, since the Grants bought La Petraia, there's been a complete rebirth of the property. They started with reconstruction of the terraces. They wanted to rebuild every one of the stone walls, replanted these vineyards, which had all disappeared, and created all the gardens, none of which existed.
Fare questo giardino perché non c'era, anche allora non c'era niente di tutto ciò.
On other farms, orchards had been sacrificed to more profitable grape production, but the Grants' interest in ancient varieties of fruit trees led them to agronomist Elisa Ascani.
We're sort of an experimental farm for her. She's planted about 30 or 40 different trees, all of which were once local to this area and were common sites on farms, and many of which are almost extinct.
Una pera piccola che maturava.
One of the ways that she identifies these trees and finds out what they are is by looking at old Renaissance paintings.
Susan e suo marito hanno accettato questa sfida.
Susan and her husband accepted this challenge that hardly anyone was interested in. Now, there's meticulous and ongoing research to try and recover what has been lost.
Recuperare quello che è stato perso.
For centuries, La Petraia's forest had been harvested for its chestnuts. But Susan realized it would also be perfect for raising Cinta pigs, a near-extinct local breed that only thrives in forests.
The Cinta meat, you know, when you buy it in the store, it's about 5 or 6 times the price of regular pork. And so the general consensus was, you know, forget it. Now we have friends who, some of those same people who are telling us, you know, no, they're raising these Cinta pigs now.
I proprietari hanno mirato ad avere veramente un prodotto di qualità che non ha nessuno.
The owners really aimed at having a high-quality product that nobody else has. They built a chicken coop that looks like a hotel. It's not like an old shack that farmers used to have. Same for the pigs and the rabbits and the birds. Everything at a higher level of quality.
The whole thing for us here is we're interested in giving the animals a life, a good life, because I feel if you give the animal a good life, then it gives you back a good life in return.
At first, the Grants had the local community scratching their heads. Tuscans were used to foreigners buying holiday homes and leaving when the summer was over. But Susan stuck around.
When we first bought the property, the first couple of years even, I would go into Rada. You know, in November, I would go into the little gastronomia to buy, you know, milk or something, and they would say, "Oh, you're back. What are you doing here now?" And I would say, no, I live here. I live here.
On Susan's visa, it says she's una apprenditori agricola, a lady farmer. A job title that had Italian immigration officials scratching their heads.
The Italian authorities had a little bit of trouble with that one. In fact, they said, "You're a reverse immigrant. You know, we're used to people going from here to North America," but they didn't really know what to do with me because I wanted to come over to Italy and work as a farmer.
Grazie. Arrivederci.
From the outside, it's an idol, it's a dream, all those phrases that you hear about La Petraia and what we're doing here. But of course, in the core of it, it's a business venture. So like all business ventures, there is risk involved in it. Okay, and it went well?
The risk is not only monetary. Michael's business takes him away frequently, leaving Susan by herself for months at a time.
In the beginning, I worried about Susan being alone like this, but after a period of time, I realized that she's someone who likes to be alone. She likes to be in her own world, and she's quite happy and content doing that.
When we first moved here, you know, you think, oh, it's going to be so great. You know, we're going to be living in Italy. We're going to be able to go here and go there and go everywhere. And I did that for the first little while. You know, we did that a lot. We took off. And, like, you can hardly get me to go to Rada anymore. I mean, there's just so much going on this property. And I love this place so much. Like, I just can't leave it. And you can make these as big as you want. I mean, I like these because they have such a delicate flavor.
Among her many skills, Susan McKenna Grant is a professional chef who trained at the finest cooking schools, from the legendary Cordon Bleu to the Baking Institute of San Francisco. Her own cooking school is one of the reasons people come to La Petraia. It's an agriturismo, a farm inn, where the food is the highlight of the visit. Susan bakes her own bread every day, and her guests describe it as unforgettable.
I think the thing that's fascinating about bread is that it's a living thing. You know, we hear stories about bread has to, you know, sit near a hot place and it has to rise quickly. But actually, to make a really good loaf of bread, the opposite is true. A slow, cool rise is best. And, you know, I think that's a good metaphor for life.
Slowing down extends even to Susan and Michael's favorite restaurant. It's owned by Dario Cecchini, famous all over Italy as the poet butcher of Panzano. When you eat at Dario's, forget about making it to a movie. The meal is a marathon 8 courses, with a few cantos of Dante thrown in for good measure.
Oscia, ch'io ebbi il mio dottore udito nomar le donne antiche e cavalieri.
Dario and his restaurant are part of the slow food movement, created in the late 1980s as a reaction to the spread of fast food.
At the very heart, at the center of the slow food movement, where it really all begins, is our right to pleasure at the table, pleasure and conviviality. And it's about our right to having a diversity of tastes on our plate and of not losing these flavors.
Not that Italians are in a hurry to lose anything when it comes to eating. This is a country with a tremendous diversity of food.
They make tomato sauce in Rada one way and another way in Gaioli, which is 15 minutes away, and people will sit at a table and argue forever about which one is better.
For Susan, the key to the Italian kitchen, or to any great food for that matter, is simplicity.
Simplicity is one of the hardest things to learn in the kitchen. And it's the thing that Italians just seem to have. It's just this understanding of simplicity, quality ingredients. And then, of course, I think the most important ingredient in food is love. You know, I mean, I think you can actually taste it. You just find that here a lot in like simple osterias, where they're run by families. They're cooking recipes that have been handed down for generations. They're recipes that have a story to go with them. And they're just doing it because they love it.
The slow food movement inspired the title of Susan's cookbook, Piano, 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 which translates as slowly, slowly full. Susan likes to call it a storybook with recipes.
If you have a story about the food that you're cooking, I think you appreciate your food more if you know something about where it came from, and then I think it can do more for you.
At their core, the slow food movement and La Petraia are both asking a simple question. If we throw away the past, will we have a future?
One of the things that has always struck me about the people here is that before they take a step forward, they can look a long way back, which is something that we in North America can't do. We don't have what these people have deep inside of them, which is this concern about moving forward into the future and doing that in a way that is not just about them and their time here, but about all of the generations that are going to come after them.
For over 6 centuries, the Chianti classical region of Tuscany has been famous for its wines. Soon to join that tradition will be a wine with the La Petraia label. Or so Susan and Michael hope. But first they have to build a cantina, a building where wine is manufactured. Today, Michael and farm manager Marco Panicchi visit Carlo Cantalici at the Cantalici Brothers Winery. As with their other agricultural projects, Michael and Susan want to make wine with traditional methods, but modern equipment.
In the last 25 years, as the wine industry became sort of internationalized, a lot of the shape of a wine occurred in the cantina. With that, you began to lose the idea of terroir, the idea that a piece of soil produces a unique quality to the grape. When you drink a glass of wine, if it's not been heavily manipulated in the process of making the wine in the cantina, you're going to, in some way, experience something that's unique to that piece of land.
To help them make the most of their land, the Grants consulted one of Italy's top agronomists, Remigio Bordini.
Mi ha colpito questo terreno che era incolto, cioè senza coltivazioni da...
I was struck by this property, which was uncultivated for the past 30 years. This is important because the land was rested, completely natural and abundant in life. This meant that the land could express its true character. its essence.
Carattere vero, di essenza.
Like everything else the Grants have taken on, building a cantina won't be easy. The Chianti Classical region is protected by Italian law. New buildings must be underground so as not to intrude on the landscape.
There's so much that we didn't know, and had we known it, we probably never would have done it. But we didn't know it, and we did it.
We're only going to do this once in our lives, and we're creating a place that will be, for us, that symbol of home for the principal part of our lives together.
I think they have this romantic vision of a magic place where spend a life. And I think one person spend well his life if he can help other person to dream and to imagine the same thing you love. And they love the place, they love the food, they have a guest in the house, and if they are happy and if they spend enjoy the time here, I think they have a good vision.
For most couples, it wouldn't be easy maintaining a transatlantic marriage while pursuing both joint and individual passions. But Michael and Susan thrive on it. And piano, piano, slowly, slowly, they're building their Eden.